Om Jnana Timandasya Janam Shanakya Sakshunvitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chitchaitanyamanopistam Staptam Yena Bhutalishvam Rupagadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shio Shio Dapadakamanam Shigam Vaishnavam Shilpam Jagasatam Saganaranatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Bhajan Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagalita Shri Krishna Vitam He Krishna Gona Sindhu Dina Bandhu Tyatpate Gopesa Gopka Kanta Ganda Kanta Namaste Tapta Kansana Gauraki Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwe Vishavana Sutta Devi Pranamama Hripriya Panka Kalpa Vishaka Kripa Shinve Visa Vatinam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskachari Desatana. Ila Prabhupada Ki. So, yesterday we heard about the first 12 verses of the 18th chapter, a summary of Karma Yoga. Now Krishna will start giving a summary of Jnana Yoga. The Karma Yoga was primarily discussed in the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, and Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga in the 6 last chapters. And in this section, Krishna will start with trying to convince us that we are not the only doer. And he will cite the Vedanta for this. So summary. Lord Krishna now cites the Vedas and analyzes activities as comprised of 5 factors. He then describes in detail how one's work according to the 5 factors is dictated by the 3 modes of nature, material nature. Knowledge in the mode is described in verses 90 to 22, and then one's actions in the modes are described in verses 23, 25. So that's a summary of this section. Then we will start with verse 13. Then we go. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Panchaitani Mahabahu Karanani Vidohame Sankhye Kritante Bhuktani Siddhe Sarvakarmanam. Almighty Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn these from me. The Prabhupada in the purple. A question may be raised that since any activity performed must have some reaction, how is it that the person in Krishna consciousness does not suffer or enjoy the reactions of work. The Lord is citing Vedanta philosophy to show how this is possible. At the beginning of the last paragraph, the ultimate control is invested in the supersoul. Krishna consciousness acts done under the direction from within, yield no reaction, either in this life or in the life after death. So how is it that we don't get reaction? The soul desires. It's the karta, the doer in terms of desiring, but the rest is done by material nature. If we desire ourselves what to do, we get reactions. If we follow the desire of the super soul, we don't get reactions. Then we are not responsible for our actions. We are just doing what the super soul tells us. That's the same as what Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita. That's the same what the spiritual master tells us. But the fact that we are the performer in terms only of desiring is explained in the next verse, and all the rest is done by material nature. The body, the senses, activities of the mind, that's all done by the super soul, by material nature. So although the Lord is the supreme authority, he cites Vedanta in his description of the 5 factors of action. That, yes, yeah. See? Yeah, he cites Vedanta, description of the 5 factors, and now we will hear about the 5 factors. Boom, boom. Oh, here, yeah. 14. Adhishtanam tata karta karanam sa pritakvidam vividasa pritakshasta daivancha eva trapansanam. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, that's a subtle body. And ultimately, the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada, the word adhishtanam refers to the body. The soul within the body is acting to bring out the results of activity and is therefore known as karta, the doer. Is acting through desire. Further, the instruments of action are the senses. And by the senses, the soul acts in various ways. For each and every action, there is a different endeavor. But all one's activities depend on the will of the super soul, who is seated within the heart as a friend. The Supreme Lord is the super cause. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the super soul situated within the heart is naturally not bound by any activity. Under the direction of the super soul. Yeah. Those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the supreme will, the super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead. So these 5 items, there's them here. 5 factors influence the performance and outcome of an activity. The place of action. Of action to the place of action is the body, the kshetra. And the performer, the soul desires to bring out the fruit of the activity. Desires. It desires a fruit. And then you have the senses and the endeavor in the mind, which is the subtle body. So it means that the body, the senses, and the endeavors in the subtle body, that's under control of the super soul. Because that's material nature. And material nature controls super soul. It's controlled by the super soul. 9-10 Bhagavad Gita, Mayadrikshana that should be clear. But all activities depend on the will of the super soul because he is the ultimate super force. So it means we are also the doer, but we are not the doer. We are only the doing by desire. And Krishna will say, one who does not consider these 5 factors is not very intelligent. That because we can understand that we may desire so many things, but I may desire to move my hand, but only if Krishna wants it to happen. At a certain time it will stop. Krishna wants that. So then go to the next verse, back to up. Sariravan manoviryat karma prarabhate naram nyayam va viparitam va panchete tasya hetava. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by the body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. Right work is done in terms of the prescribed directions in the scriptures, and wrong work is work done against the principles of the scriptural injunctions. But whatever is done requires these 5 factors for its complete performance. These 5 factors are always there. Yes. This was 15-16. Tatraivam satikartaram atmanam kevalam tuya pashatta krita bhutitvan nasa pasati durmatihi. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent. One cannot see things as they are. So Srila Prabhupada writes, a foolish person cannot understand that the super soul is sitting as a friend within and conducting such actions. The final cause is the Supreme, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should see not only the 4 material causes, but the Supreme efficient cause as well. One who does not see the Supreme thinks himself to be the doer. Well, if we are not Krishna conscious, we think ourselves the doer. We do not see Krishna, we think ourselves the doer. If you think yourself the doer, you get reactions. That is here. Ignorant persons think themselves the only doer, not realize the super soul's influence that such a person will be motivated by false ego. Yeah, these gunas are controlled by the second one. And the body, the senses, and the subtle body is made of these three gunas. That's the three gunas. It's made of it. That's Hare Krishna. Yeah. So 17. Yasyana hankito bhavo bhutir yasyana lipyate atvapisha imalokan nahanti nani bhatyate. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entailed, though he kills man in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his action. So that's an important principle we have heard before in second chapter, I think, Patra Patram, the example of the lotus, and a drop of water comes on the lotus leaf and rolls from it, it doesn't impregnate. So if we are acting by real ego as a servant of Krishna, then no reactions. We are not entangled in the material energy, but no influence of the material energy. We get out of the influence of material energy. So that's important. That's an important principle. We get out of the influence of material energy. Krishna says, Deva Yesha Gunamaya Mama Maya Drachya. Mama Maya Drachya, my material energy is very difficult to overcome. Very difficult to overcome. But one who is Krishna conscious, he gets out of the influence of the material energy. As long as we are identified with the body, we are under the influence. If we identify as spirit soul and are so absorbed in spiritual activities, our awareness of the body becomes practically nothing. And we are not under the influence of Maya. Maya gets us when we identify with the body. Then we are lost. We act as the body and we forget these 5 factors. We think we are doing everything, and you get reactions, commentaries. So in this verse, the Lord informs Arjuna that the desire not to fight arises from false ego. Although Arjuna taught himself the doer of action, but did not consider the supreme sanction within and without. But one who knows the instruments of work himself as the worker and the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Sanctioner is perfect in everything. So these 3 things should be there. Such a person is never an illusion. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness or a lack of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the super soul or the supreme personality of Godhead, even though killing does not kill, nor is he ever affected by the reactions of such killing. And that's the example, the comparison. When a soldier kills under the command of a superior officer, he is not subject to be judged. But if a soldier kills on his own personal account, then he is judged by a court of law. But that's we heard before. It's a summary. We are repeating the same knowledge. 18. Jnanam hyayam parichyata trivida karma shodhana karanam karma karteti trivida karma sangraha. Knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower are three factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the three constituents of action. That yeah, where everything we do is based on these three things. The knowledge. We know after this lesson there will be prasadam. Prasadam that's the knowledge, the object, and prasadam is the object of knowledge, and I know. And by that, the knower after the class goes to take prasadam. That's for everything you do. These three factors are there. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, there are three kinds of impetus for daily work: the knowledge, object of knowledge, and the knower. Little in the middle. First one has to undergo the psychological process of thinking, feeling, willing, and that is called the impetus. When the inspiration is there and the work is there, then actual activity takes place by the help of the senses, including the mind, which is the center of all the senses. The mind, yeah. So that's the process that Krishna speaks about three kinds of knowledge: the action and the performer of action. So hereafter Krishna will speak about knowledge in the modes, action in the modes, performer in the modes, and then he will speak about happiness in the modes. And then he will conclude the modes in Bhagavad Gita. So 9, yeah. That was 18. So there is knowledge, the object of knowledge, and a knower that motivates action. But when the inspiration for that action comes from spiritual authorities, then there is no reaction. Therefore, we should always think before we do something. Will our spiritual master, will Srila Prabhupada be pleased if I do it? That's important in everything you do. 19. Jnanam karma sakarta chate daiva guna vedata Pochate guna sankyane yata vakshinutan yapi. According to the three different modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear of them for me. So all the modes of material nature are binding. They are not sources of liberation. So Krishna will explain knowledge, action, and the performer of action in the modes hereafter, but they are all binding. It's not for a Krishna conscious person. That's different. Okay, first we go for slides. So we said, ignorant persons think themselves the only doer, not realizing the supersoul's influence. Those who are acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the supersoul are not bound by any activity, nor are they responsible for such action. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower motivate action. When inspiration for work comes from spiritual authorities, the work has no reaction. Knowledge in the most lead to an understanding, the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth that we 20. Sarvabhuteshu yenakam bhavam amphiyamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tachyanam vidisatvikam. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness, knowledge in the mode of goodness. It means, Prabhupada says, a person who sees one spirit soul in every living being. Thus, to see that one superior nature, that living force in every body, is to see the mode of goodness. Is to see in the mode of goodness. To see that one superior nature, the living force in every body, is to see in the mode of goodness. Thus, living energy is imperishable, although the bodies are perishable. Yeah. Good. 21. Pritakvena tu yachvyanam nana bhavam pritakvidan Sarveshu bhuteshu tachyanam vitirachasam. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. That's the mode of passion. Knowledge in the mode of passion leads to varieties of concocted religion and philosophies. It's based on seeing a different living entity in every body. The concept that the material body is the living entity and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. At the end, according to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary, or else there are no individual souls, but there is an all-pervading super soul, an all-pervading soul, which is full of knowledge, and this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond the body, there is no special individual or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered to be products of the mode of passion. That so many philosophies and 22. Yato Krishna vadekasmin karye saktam ahaitukam atavakta fadalpamcha tattamasamudaritam. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as all in all, with knowledge of without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is to be in darkness. In the Srila Prabhupada writes, one who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. The knowledge of ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness, knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is a product of the mode of passion. And knowledge concerned with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. that is 22. So for a person in ignorance, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Now the next 3 is action in the modes. I will read these 3 verses. Niyatam sangarai tam araga tveshita ketam afala pepsuna karma yatat satvakam uchate. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results, is in a mode of goodness. Of course, a Krishna conscious person acts for the pleasure of Krishna. And naturally there is no desire for fruitive results. That he acts out of love for Krishna. And then one is automatically detached and regulated. That's important. A regulated life as a devotee. Every day, early out of bed, always the same time, the same activities, eating at the same time. That's regulated, very regulated. That's important. But this the mode of goodness, different here. Now that in the purport, regulate occupational duties as described in the scriptures in terms of different orders and divisions of society, performed without attachment or proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred, and performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme, without self-satisfaction or self-gratification, are called actions in the mode of goodness. Because in Krishna consciousness is pure goodness. What's the difference between goodness and sattva and Suddha sattva? Goodness and purified goodness. Purified goodness, Suddha sattva, is Krishna consciousness. That it's pure goodness. But the goodness in this world is different. The goodness in this world is always an influence of the other gunas, because it's never pure. And still, it's false ego. Out of false ego. False ego in terms of, because one thinks himself, I'm the happy person, I'm better than the others. We have heard how the goodness is binding, but the devotee does not have that. He does not think he's better than the other, he thinks I'm lower than the other. And he's humble, yes? That's goodness, that's neutral, yeah. Goodness without hate or love for things in the material world. But the devotee performs it out of love for Krishna. And he does not hate anything because he sees Krishna in everything. So naturally, there's no hate, only love. Yeah. In the neutral position towards matter by devotee is based on knowledge. Everything belongs to Krishna and it's for his service. It's not mine. So I'm neutral about it. I'm detached. But I'm detached to use it in Krishna's service. I'm attached to that. Good. Good, then go to the next one. Yatu kamekshuna karma sahankarena papuna yate baulayasam tatrachasam udaritam. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. action in the mode of passion with great desire to gratify the senses. Thinking oneself is the body. What happens in the action in ignorance. Anubandham kshayaim sam anapeksha saparusam mohat arapyate karma yata tamasam uchate. That action performed in illusion, in disregard of scriptural injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Action performed in illusion, no scriptures. Yeah, whether I react in the future or not, I don't care. I don't believe in it. That if we have to use violence, we use violence as long as we are getting what we want. That's the most of ignorance. And what happens for them? Prabhupada in the first sentence says, one has to give account of one's action to the state or the agents of the Supreme Lord called the Yamadutas. That's you will have to explain a bit what you have done. Good luck. That we have. So in verse 23, we have seen Srila Prabhupada closely equates the mode of goodness with Krishna consciousness. But I explained that goodness, sattva, and Shuddha sattva is different. But in the spiritual world is pure goodness. There is no influence by the other modes, but in this material world, pure goodness does not exist. Not possible.
Even for the pure devotees, even for the pure devotees, this sattva is not available on platform.
And the pure devotees are situated in Shuddha sattva.
Yeah.
Krishna consciousness is Shuddha sattva, the same thing. They are, but they are, with their vision, with their consciousness, they are not in this world. That, Good. We go to our slides. And so that we see. Knowledge in the mode of passion leads to varieties of concocted religion and philosophies. That's the point. If one thinks I'm the body, then they write philosophies based on that understanding. So everything you do from the body point of view is wrong, because we are not a body. It's illusion. So everything they do is wrong. If you say 1 + 1 is 3, it's wrong. But then you see 3 + 1 is 4, it's correct. 4 + 4 is 8, it's correct. It's all correct, but the first was wrong. So everything is wrong. And so that's concocted philosophies. For a person in the mode of ignorance, God is money, and knowledge means satisfaction of the body demands. So that is really the interest of the man in this world, the Naradams. 99.9% of the people. That's their business. That it may be sophisticated in the way they do. Like that, they are dressed up animals. A little better, but it's still animal. Srila Prabhupada creates the mode of goodness with Krishna consciousness. We discussed. And that's it. So, any questions? Yes.
The five factors of action. There is one, which is verse 14. Endeavor also.
Yeah.
So if you can please elaborate.
Well, in the mind we have thinking, feeling, and willing, and we use our thinking, feeling, and willing to get our action done, right? Without thinking, feeling, willing will not happen. That's the endeavor in the mind, the subtle body. That endeavor is also done by the super soul, because the thinking, feeling, willing is material nature. That, of course, the soul directed with desire, but factually it's done by the super soul. But it's more subtle, more difficult to understand than the two others. Yeah. Yes.
Text 19, it says that even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. So how can one work the conditions state when this?
Yeah. Whatever state, goodness, passion, or ignorance, it's conditioned. So Krishna gives these states to explain what is conditioned. So Krishna is telling us, don't act in these modes. Act always in Krishna consciousness. Then you are not conditioned. So these are three varieties of modes, but it's all binding. Whether you're buying good, but whether you're dying goodness or in passion or ignorance, you have to take a new body and you get your reactions. So of course, goodness is better from a material point of view, but from a spiritual point of view, it's not better. Because it's still material. So we should understand, act with the basis that everything belongs to Krishna. And therefore we should use it in his service. We should use our body. We should use our senses. We should use our mind, all in the service of Krishna. If you do not do that, you act in the modes in one of these three categories, and you get reactions. So that is the lesson to be learned. Don't act in these modes. That's what Krishna says to Arjuna. Oh, Arjuna, that transcend these modes. Don't be interested in this karma kanda, nistra gunya, that you must transcend it by devotional service. That's the point. But Krishna explains for our understanding, when in the mode of goodness, he will probably take again a human birth or a demigod birth. When in the mode of passion, maybe a human being. When one walks in the mode of ignorance, goes to the animal world, we can see how people act and understand their future. But we should get out of it, not acting in these modes. The mode of ignorance or passion or goodness are all material, not good. That's the point.
So you need to be a Krishna.
Yeah, never do something for yourself. If even materially you're acting goodness, you are still a big fool. We should not do that. But of course, we cannot come immediately to goodness. We have this to Krishna consciousness. We struggle to come. And the best mode is goodness. From goodness, you can easily come to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we live a lifestyle in goodness. It's clean and so on. But if the goodness is not connected with Krishna, it's material. So our goodness should be connected with Krishna. That okay. So our lifestyle is in goodness, but it's connected with Krishna. Therefore, it's transcendental. Yeah.
Maharaj, materialist says that I work hard, I make money, and with that I support my family. What is the flaw in his argument?
That they work hard. The flaw there is that they may work hard, but Krishna gives the result of their work. He gives the results. But the results do not depend on their hard work. That's incorrect. An example of that, Narada Muni, he met Mihrari the hunter. He was killing animals, half that, and they were struggling to survive, but they died. And Mihrari the hunter was so cruel that he enjoyed this. And Narada Muni came to this forest, and then he met this hunter, and he said, "Are you killing these animals? Half that, making a half that." He said, "Yes, I enjoy it. My father has shown me how to do it. It's my livelihood, that and that." And Narada Muni said, "Can you give me, can you do me a favor?" "Oh," Michael Dunter said, "Do you want some deer skin or something? I can give you, no problem." And Narada Muni said, No, I want you to kill these animals completely. Don't let them struggle. And he gave him a vision of what will happen in his next life, the karma he would get. And then he said, "Yeah, how can I get rid of this karma?" That's so. I will tell you, Narada Muni said, but first you have to break your bow. To break your bow. And then Michael said, "But that's my livelihood, because I'm so working hard, I get the result. How am I going to live?" he said. Narada Muni said, if you break your bow and you surrender and do what I said, Krishna will take care. So he broke his bow. And then Narada Muni said, "Now you go home and you plant before you hurt the tulsi plant. And with your wife, you chant constantly, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare." And wonderfully, he was sitting there chanting, and in the villages around it, the news spread. A sinful hunter became a sadhu. And many from these villages came to visit him. But if you visit someone, you bring something. So he came, he was chanting, and all these villagers came to see the sadhu hunter and brought some vegetables, rice, everything. And then 3 months later, Narada Muni came to visit him again together with Parvata Muni. And when he saw his spiritual master coming, he was first brushing away the ants on the ground, and then was offering respect. And yeah, the Parvata Muni said to Narada Muni, this hunter was very simple, was killing animals, and now he's afraid of even killing an ant. And then Vihartandra said to his spiritual master, please don't send me so much food. I get 10 times food that I don't need. So he understood. But we get that in the scriptures. Tasheva itapayatitiko vtonalapyatayat pamatamya parvyatata lapyatidukava anyatoskam karlin servata kabira kamasa. That's also Narada Muni speaking. One should seek for that happiness which is not available in this world, not from the lowest to the highest planet. And what happiness in this world is concerned, that will come out of his own accord, like distress comes on his own accord. So people think, if I'm not going to work, then I don't have food, but that's not a point. When Prabhupada came to America, then a reporter said, oh yeah, from India, that's a poor country. People are dying there for food. But Prabhupada said, when I was in India, I never saw anyone dying for food. No, so that's a misconception, that one is maintained by one's work. That's false ego. Everyone is maintained by Krishna. That's the reality. Yeah. Yes.
In this connection, Bugari's episode, I read one article long back in Bhakti magazine. There was a gynecologist in city of Punjab, and he had conducted more than 3,000 abortions. In India, they call it MTP.
Yeah.
Then he came in touch with Prabhupada literature, and he became a guru. He had written the article in connection to the program where he was treating any animals. He said, I killed so many human beings.
Yeah.
So he had written that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm also a devotee in Belgium. He's connected with me. He has expectation that I will give initiation one day. But for 30 years, he was working in a slaughterhouse. And then he became a Buddhist, finally became a devotee. I told him that now you should do service for the cows. And it's doing very nicely. Yeah. Anyway, good. We will pause now for 10 minutes till 8 o'clock. Yeah. You have still a question?
A quick question about the karma family schooling.
Yeah.
So karma, I see a lot of people, even from our temple in ISKCON, or some people are still going to the karma family. So I see that as you mentioned about the lot of goodness.
Yeah.
The person is not acting then still consider it material.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that people who go from the karma family, but if they bring that thing towards the Krishna consciousness, then it's still okay.
Well, the karma kandi, we have to be very careful with that, and not to bring that into ISKCON, because that makes our devotional service impure. Sometimes devotees on Ekadashi, they read this book about Ekadashi, this Ekadashi, if you do that, you get that benefit, that's karma kanda. That's not for us. But still they become attracted to it. You have to be careful not to mix that with our practice of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, of those from Indian background may still be inclined to these things. But if we follow Prabhupada, that will be purified. That. Of course, we do samskaras. That's okay, but not for material benefit. For samskar, karbhadan, samskar, for having good children, Krishna conscious children, the first hair cutting ceremony. That's all fine. But, good. Thank you. So let's go till 8:05. Om Jnanatimanasya Jnansalakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shikarabe Naman Amam Vishnupadai Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachai Dasatani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So Lord Krishna will now clearly wrap up his explanation of the three modes. He will explain the performer in the modes, understanding in the modes, determination in the modes, and happiness in the modes. So we must understand that this is meant to make us aware that we should not act in these modes, but we should act transcendentally for the pleasure of Krishna. So by that we can recognize when we act in the modes and characters that because the mode of goodness is most close to Krishna consciousness. So the devotee tries to act in the mode of goodness, but for Krishna. And then it becomes transcendental. Srila Prabhupada did not comment much on these verses. So we will quickly go over them, but there are some quotes of Srila Prabhupada. And we will read the quotes which are not too long. That usually Prabhupada in his lectures rarely speaks about the three modes, because the purpose is, why is that? He wants us to transcend these modes. He explains Krishna consciousness and not the knowledge in the modes. But Krishna explains it to Arjuna, for us also, so that we can avoid acting in these modes, and especially avoid the modes of ignorance and passion, that the mode of goodness is fine if when we practice Krishna consciousness. That's the best mode to practice Krishna consciousness. Okay, let's go. Let's go now to the verses. Verse 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Mukta Sangonam Vadi Dhrityutsaha Samam Vitaha Sitya Sidya Nirvikaraha Karta Satvika Uchate. One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination, enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. So that's very important for us to act without false ego, determination, and enthusiasm. And that you will learn in Nectar of Instruction, that 6 things to do. Utsaha nisayada tat karma pravartanat sangatyaga satosi prite satpir bhakti prashidati. 6 items which are favorable to the performance of devotional service. Have utsa, enthusiasm, enthusiastic. How to get enthusiasm? Associate with the devotees who are very enthusiastic. Even if you are not enthusiastic, try to be enthusiastic and associate with those devotees, and by their influence, your enthusiasm will become real. Now, Utsa Nisaya, that means determination. Daryat, patience. Tatat karma pravartanat. Yeah, do all your activities of devotional service. 9, the process of devotional service. Sangotyara, stay away from materialists and following the footsteps of great devotees. So that is the signs of devotional service. But from the mode of goodness, we can take aspects and apply them in Krishna consciousness. Determination to serve Krishna. That this is not just being equal in failure and success. We are not, in Krishna consciousness, we are not concerned with that. Failure or success. We do it for Krishna, and failure or success is for Krishna. We try our best. That's so. That's, and now enthusiasm, determination, and attachment are characteristics of a person in the mode of goodness. And detachment, the characteristic for goodness. But the devotee is attached to Krishna, and therefore is not attached to anything in this world. Yeah. So elements of the mode of goodness we can practice in Krishna consciousness. That is 26, right? Yes. A person in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental to the material modes of nature, also to goodness. Huh? He has no expectation for the results of the work entrusted to him because he's above false ego and pride. He has no false ego. Yes. False ego means I want profit for the body. The profit is for the body. That the success is for the body. But a devotee has no false ego. Is success is for Krishna, not for me. That I don't need anything. I'm a spirit soul. That the spirit soul don't need food, all these things. The spirit soul needs love. But, he does not worry about the distress undertaking. Why? He's always enthusiastic. So he does not worry about the distress undertaking. The distresses of a devotee is different from the distress of materialistic people. Materialistic people, they suffer because of their attachment. But a devotee undergoes distress while doing the job, but then he does another service and he forgets the previous distress because he's not concerned, it's for Krishna. That therefore he can become quickly peaceful again. He's doing something else. The distress is because of our attachment. If you think this is my car, someone does something to the car, you get big distress. If you think this is my wife or my husband, I'm very attached, and then the relation breaks, heartbreak, so much suffering because you think this person is related to me, and that's illusion. the person is not related to you. That's what you connect in your mind, the concoction, that it's a bitter pill for the conditioned soul to swallow this. But we have to go through it to come to the transcendental platform. That does not mean that we are detached and we don't have any feelings. No, that feelings can be there. But the attachment based on the body relationship is the problem. That Queen Kunti prays to Krishna, please cut this disease of skin relationship, my attachment for my sons, cut it. That Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that Queen Kunti is not praying to take away the natural affection for the Pandavas, but she prays to take away the affection, the material affection, thinking these are my sons. That's the material part. No, they are Krishna's servants. They're Krishna's part and parcels. So that's distinction should always be there. So, text 27. Well, maybe a quote, I don't know if the quotes 26. Yeah, this is important. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in Madhurya Kadambini that there are two types of Vachana Kriya, Nishtita and Anishtita, steady and unsteady. In the beginning, our devotion services Anishtita, is flickering, is unsteady. And the unsteady devotional service has 6 symptoms. Utsamai, false confidence. A Brahmin child, having just studied the scriptures, thinks he has immediately become a learned scholar worthy of everyone's praise. Similarly, a person beginning in devotional service may have the audacity to think that he has mastered everything, is puffed up with enthusiasm. That, yes, Utsamai. Ganatarala, sporadic endeavor. The same child at times diligently engages in his studies, and yet other times, due to inability to understand the scriptures or lack of real taste, is negligent. So sometimes he does, sometimes not. That Ganatarala going. And Vyuda Vikalpa, indecision. Should I get married or remain single? Should I give up everything and live in Vrindavan and chant 64 rounds every day and bye-bye to material life? And that's a thought that comes one day, and the next day of the brahmachari thing, maybe I should start a Krishna conscious family. And it's going from one side to another, the mind. That's Vyuda Vikalpa. And Visaya Sangaras, the struggle with the senses, seeing that material enjoyment is forcibly carrying him away and impairing his steadiness in serving Krishna, the devotee resolves to renounce his addictions and take shelter of the holy name. Yes, he's saying, yes, tomorrow is at Ekadashi, I'm going for a full fast, finished, I will control my senses. And he's fasting, and I think, yes, 23 hours and I can eat. 5 minutes later, 22 hours, 55 minutes I can eat. And it's the whole day not meditating on Krishna, but on eating. And he ends up more eating than usual. That's Visaya Sangara. That's struggling with the sense. And Niya Maxima, inability to uphold faults. The devotee will resolve, from today I will chant such and such number rounds of japa, and he will pay so many obeisances. I also perform services for devotee. I won't talk about anything except the Lord. I'll give up association with people who talk gossip. Anyway, but he always fails. Bhajam Prabhu said at the beginning of Kartik, he made a vow, I will not criticize any devotees. The vow lasted for 3 hours. That's too high. Anyway, the Rangini, enjoying facilities offered by Bhakti. That's so finally you become steady, everyone is praising you, you're giving nice lectures, you are a nice person, and you start to relish all this praise, and that's a great trap that anyway, these are 6 forms of unsteadiness that so this is in reference to determination and steadiness. There's goodness also. We must come to that. But finally, one comes to Nishtita Bhakti. One becomes steady in his devotional service. But if one is steady in his devotional service, then one has to come to Anartha Nivritti by giving up offenses. And that's difficult. So one become steady after 3 or 6 months, but then it may take a few years before you come to Anartha Nivritti, because you make offenses. You have the wrong inner attitude. Therefore, one has to hear the Bhagavatam. And then finally, Anartha Nivritti starts. That, yeah. Anyway, that's just an introduction to Madhurya Kandambini. We have to go on. 27. From Ragi karma falap lupto im satmako chuchi harsa sukam vita kartara chasa parikirtita. The worker is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. So Prabhupada is simply concerned with making this world as materially comfortable as possible. He's generally very greedy, and he thinks that anything attained by him is permanent and never be lost. Such a person is envious of others and prepared to do anything wrong for sense gratification. Therefore, such a person is unclean, and he does not care whether his earning is pure or impure. He is very happy if his work is successful and very much distressed when his work is not successful. But the success of our work does not depend on our work, not at all. That you can have a nice job and then something happens, you make an error. And you have to pay a damage. Or you try to do your way and your work nice, you come out with your car, you get an accident, so many troubles, so many things, and then you have to pay so many things. So it doesn't depend on your endeavor. It depends on the karma you get. That's what you get. And whether you work hard or not, you will get that result. That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah. Text 26 is about determination. And that explains how to get that determination in Krishna consciousness. One must overcome these six sources of unsteadiness. No, that is a comment of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on determination. That explains how we can apply it in our Krishna consciousness. That's important. This is in goodness, but we should not act in goodness. But there are elements in the goodness that we can apply to our Krishna consciousness. That everything in goodness we can apply if related with Krishna. You get that? Fasting for Krishna? The six symptoms, yes, that's all for Krishna. That's the description of the process of becoming Krishna conscious. You have Shraddha, you have faith in the beginning, then you have Sadhu Sangha, you associate with devotees, and then Bhajana Kriya. That's the third stage. And the symptoms of the third stage as two categories, Anishtita, Nishtita. So Nishtita is steady and Anishtita is unsteady. In the beginning in our practice, we are unsteady and but we must come to steady devotional service with determination. And that determination, to get that determination, we have to overcome these weaknesses. Okay? Good. Then in ignorance, ayukta prakita stapta satanash kritikola vishadi dirha sutresha karta tamasa uchate. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scriptures, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. So those who do not care for the injunctions engage in work not to be done. They work in the modes of nature, not according to the injunctions of the scriptures. Such workers are not very gentle, are generally very cunning and expert in insulting others. Very lazy, morose, they procrastinate. So stay away from this kind of work. And now intelligence, the buddhi, intelligence of understanding. Buddhir bedam tidasheva gunatas trividam shinu potsyamanamasheshena pitakfena dananjaya. O winner of wealth, now please listen. I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of material nature that the Lord is explaining the intelligence and determination of the worker in the same way now. 30. Pravittimsa nivrittimsa karya karye bhaya bhaye bandha moksham sayaveti buddhi sa partha sattvike. O son of Prita, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done, what not to be done, what is to be feared, what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating is in the mode of goodness. So that's important for devotees. They should know that what's binding, what's not binding. Not binding in the mode of goodness means acting out of duty without expectation to the results. But in Krishna consciousness it means acting for the pleasure of Krishna, and the success or failure is for Krishna. It's the same principle, but applied to Krishna consciousness. That's performing actions in terms of the directions of the scriptures is called pravritti, or executing actions that deserve to be performed. And actions we are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural directions becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness, not the mode of passion. Chaya dharmam dharmam cha karyam evacha ayattavat prajana nati buddhisapakti rajasi. O son of Prita, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. So they don't know. and the mode of ignorance, understanding in the mode of ignorance. It's just they do the opposite. Adharmam dharmam itya manyate tamasavrita savartam viparitam sha buddhi sapartatam asi. That understanding which consider irreligion to be a religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the in the wrong direction, is in the mode of ignorance. So that's in mode of goodness, they understand what to do, what not to do. In mode of passion, they don't know what to do and what not to do. In the mode of ignorance, they do the opposite, completely opposite from what should be done. So intelligence in the mode of ignorance is always working in the opposite way it should. It accepts religion via not actually religion and rejects actual religion. Men in ignorance understand the great soul to be a common man and accept the common man as a great soul. They think that to be untruth and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of ignorance. That's 32. We have a quote. Let's see if it's not too long. Yeah. Those who are involved in the mode of ignorance manufacture religious systems for killing animals. Actually, Dharma is transcendental. As Lord Krishna teaches, we must give up all other systems of religion and simply surrender unto him. Sarvadharman Pritya. Thus, the Lord and his devotees and representatives teach the transcendental Dharma, which does not allow animal killing at all. At present, it is the greatest misfortune that in India, many so-called missionary workers are spreading irreligion in the name of religion. They claim an ordinary human being to be God and recommend meat eating for everyone, including so-called sannyasis. Bhurijan Prabhu was in Hong Kong and he was somewhere or another, he came in contact with a so-called sannyasi, an impersonalist. And he was invited. He was staying in the house of one of his disciples, a very, very wealthy man. And so the man was a meat eater. But he was serving his guru vegetarian meal. And his guru said, and he was also eating vegetarian when his guru was there. And the guru said, yes, why are you eating vegetarian? Normally you don't do that. And the guru said something like, yes, like we are not all the same, and a tiger will eat meat. So why don't you do as usual? It doesn't matter. That was his teaching. Anyway, the mode of ignorance. Now, let's go back to 33. Tritya jaya darai chate mana pranandriya kriya yogina vyapicharinya triti saparta satviki. Person of Peter, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which control the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. That at the end of the purpose, the word Avyabhicharinya is very significant, for it indicates that persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness can never deviate by any other activity. So that's a determination we need in Krishna consciousness. not to do anything else than Krishna conscious activities. That Jaya tu dharma kamartan pritya dharayatayana pasankan kena phalam sankankshi pritisapartarajasi. Without determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development and sense gratification, is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. Determination. So that's the materialist. Is determined to do it if it gets profit. If there is no profit, I will not do it. So this is determination that depends on the fruitive results. That so determination by which holds fast the fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. That yes, and then 35. Chaya swapnam vayasukam vishadam madamevasha navimunshati durmeda dritisa partatam mashi. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination, Asnapita, is in the mode of darkness. Here, dream, Srila Prabhupada says, means too much sleep. Someone who sleeps too much. And now Krishna will speak about happiness in the modes. Sukham tvinanim trividam shiname bharatarshava apyasaramate yatra dukantam nadikachati. The best of the Bharatas now hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which a conditioned soul enjoys and by which it sometimes comes to an end of all distress. So a conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification, subtle or gross. But when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness, he is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. Repetitive happiness. Punashi, yeah. I think that's Materna Krishna Paratos Vatuvamito Pibatit Hiapanam Ananthapiyavishatam Tamisham Punas Sarvananam Punas Sarvananam Prahlad Maharaj says. Yeah, the materialist do always the same stereotype activities. Then that's drinking, eating, sleeping, sex life, drinking tea, drinking coffee, drinking beer, always the same thing. And that's their happiness. It repeats every day the same thing. Sense gratification. That no, but goodness. Yatatta shamima parinama metopanam tatsukam satvikam praktam atma buddha prasada cham. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. And the devotee experience that in the beginning it's difficult to get up, and you have to regulate your life, attend Mangalarti, chant your rounds, and read every day, associate with devotees, that it's stopping with all this sense gratification, that it's tough in the beginning. It's like poison, even following the four relative principles, when one is not used to do that. It's poison, it's difficult in the beginning. But if one is determined and comes to anartha nivritti in Krishna consciousness, one feels transcendental happiness happiness from this material world. But in the beginning, it's poison. But of course, if we apply Krishna consciousness properly, then we feel satisfaction from the beginning, even in the unsteady stage. Good. Now, passion. Vishayandriya samyoga yatadahamitopamam parinama vishamima tatsukam rajasam smritam. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with the object of the senses, which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. A young man and young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end, after some time, it becomes like poison. They are separated, or there is divorce. There is lamentation, there is sorrow. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is also always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. So mostly in this society, the most important factor of relationships between man and wife is the sexual relationship. And from the moment there comes that becomes distorted, divorce. That's where he or she is not fulfilling my likes and dislikes, my expectations, and so on. So in beginning is I love you, and a few later is years later is I hate you. It can mostly go from one extreme to another. And that's a mode of passion. That's false expectations of relationship. That my wife will be like Lakshmi, or my husband will be like Ram, but then it seemed to be irrealistic after some time. Nature of passion, and now ignorance. Yadakesana banditsa sukamoanam atmana nitralasya pramadotam tattamashamudaritam, and that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from the beginning till the end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. But one takes pleasure in laziness and in sleep is certainly in the mode of darkness and ignorance, and who has no idea how to act and how not to act in the mode of ignorance at the end. But for a person in the mode of ignorance, there is only distress, both in the beginning and the end. So those who drink alcohol, it's such, or intoxication, it is suffering from the beginning till the end. Not only suffering. Krishna concludes, Na tadasaktivyam va dividiveshu va puna sattvam praticha muktam yaibisya tibirkunai. There's no being existence either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these modes born of material nature. So that he summarizes all these things here, because hereafter in the next verses, which we'll see at 11, we will see that Krishna starts to speak how to liberate you from the influence of the modes and come to goodness and then transcend it, and that he will and how to transcend it, how to come to the Brahman realization, how to come to the Paramatma realization, and how to come to a Bhagavan realization. And that's the end of the Gita. Confidential, more confidential, and most confidential knowledge, which we will discuss at noontime. But now, first our slides, and then we look at the quotes. Yeah, that we see. Enthusiasm, determination, and attachment are characters of a person in a mode of goodness. The devotee is determined because his mind, life, and senses are fixed because of being engaged in Krishna consciousness. One-pointed intelligence, therefore, is determined that good quotes. Yeah, those who are involved in the mode of ignorance manufacture religious systems for killing animals. Actual dharma is transcendental. The manufacture. Prabhupada said that many times. In the Bible says the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill. But then they changed the translation in thou shalt not murder. And the whole thing became different. That happened in the first centuries of Christianity. They changed that. And then it became very popular. Everyone wanted to become a Christian. Then they could eat meat and drink and whatever they do. So that's manufacturing a religious system for killing animals. Actual Dharma is transcendental. As Lord Sri Krishna teaches, we must give up all other systems of religion and simply surrender unto him, Sarvadharma Parityaka. Thus, the Lord and his devotion representative teach the transcendental Dharma, which does not allow animal killing at all. At present moment, it is the greatest misfortune that in India, many so-called missionary workers are spreading irreligion in the name of religion. They claim an ordinary human being to be God, recommend meat eating for everyone, including so-called sannyasis. Buddhi, intelligence or understanding is in a mode of goodness when it recognizes and engages in a religious act. Triti, determination, is that which makes intelligence firm in its decision. Determination that prevents us from performing degrading actions is also in the mode of goodness. Okay, Srila Prabhupada. He explains the difference between material and spiritual happiness. In the material world, the spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is manifested as tapakari, which means causing miseries. Everyone hankers for happiness, but although happiness originally comes from the pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the material world, because of material activities, the pleasure potency of the Lord becomes a source of miseries, lada tapakari. False happiness in the material world is a source of distress, but when one's endeavors for happiness are redirected toward the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this tapakari element of misery is vanquished. An example is given in this connection is that extracting fire from wood is certainly difficult, but when the fire ignites, it burns the wood to ashes. In other words, experiencing the Supreme Personality of Godhead is extremely difficult for those devoid of devotional service, but everything becomes easy for a devotee. He can easily meet the Supreme Lord. What is real happiness? The actual aim of life is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, and Krishna is the origin of Vishnu Tattva, and is pleased to Radharani. Therefore, we don't worship Krishna alone, Radha Krishna. First, you have to worship Radharani. Therefore, in Vrindavan, you will see that all the devotees will address one another, Jai Radhe, because they know that if Radharani is pleased, if I can please Radharani, then she says, oh, there is a devotee of Krishna. She immediately recommends, oh Krishna, oh, here is a devotee. He's better than me. This is Radharani. I may not be a devotee, I may be a most fallen rascal, but if I try to reach Krishna through Radharani, then my business is successful. Therefore, we should worship Radharani first. That is our business. Instead of offering a flower directly to Krishna, you put it into the hands of Radharani. My mother Radharani, Charanmata, kindly take this flower and offer it to Krishna. Oh, Radharani says, oh, you have brought a flower. Krishna said, Patram Pushplamtyam, Yomi Bhakti Apayachati. But don't offer to Krishna directly. Just offer to Radharani. It will be very much appreciated by Radharani. So this is our philosophy. To please Krishna through Radharani, we should pray to Radharani. Radharani, kindly be merciful and tell your Krishna about me. Krishna is yours. Radharani, Radha Krishna. Krishna is not independent. Krishna is Radharani's property. So you have to approach Krishna through Radharani. Worship Radharani very nicely and be happy. This is the real happiness of spiritual life. You have it in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, you have the left wing gopis and the right wing gopis. The party of Chandravali, or the party of Radharani, and the party of Chandravali. That Chandravali says, I'm Krishna's. And that's her mood. I'm Krishna's. But Radharani said, no, Krishna is mine. So that's mentioned here. Krishna is yours. That the mood of Radharani. But of course, if we pray to Gaunitai and Lord Chaitanya, is Krishna in the mood of Radharani. So that's the way to get the mercy of Radharani, praying to Lord Chaitanya. That whatever you do, pray first to Lord Chaitanya. If you utter the word Gauranga, everything difficult becomes easy. Yes? To learn more about Radharani, that the thing is that Radharani is the energy of devotional service. And she is the most perfect devotee. How to act as a most perfect devotee? You follow Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya came as Bhakta Rupa to show how to be a devotee of Radharani. So you learn from Lord Chaitanya how to be a devotee of Radharani. And when you have studied Chaitanya Charitamrita, at the end, you will hear about Radharani. But to hear about Radharani, you must be qualified. You cannot do that with an impure heart. So otherwise we follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is a representative of Radharani. These are Radharani. Yeah, that's how we come to Krishna. So be eager to hear from Prabhupada, and then knowledge of Radharani will be revealed in your heart. So 40, Prithivya means on this earth, the higher planetary system, so even the heavenly planets, everywhere, Sattvam Prigata Muktam. No one is free from the influence of the modes of nature. Sattvam means existence. Sattvam Pragatichar means by the material nature. Gunai means the modes, this goodness, passion, and ignorance. Yaivasya Gunai, everything everywhere, even amongst the plant, beast, life. These gunas are working. Just like some trees, they are useless. They do not produce any nice fruit of flowers. That is third class in ignorance. So you have also plants in ignorance and animals in ignorance. In animals also, just like the cow, they are first class animals. the mode of goodness, supplying so many valuable nutritious foods, milk. But the cats and dogs are third-class animals. That is the calculation of the three modes of nature. Human being, animals, trees, birds, everywhere. Krishna says even in the higher planetary systems, these three modes of material nature are working. Therefore, in human society, the classification should be made scientifically according to these three modes of nature. And that's explained by Bhagavan Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvayama system, 4 classes of men. That. So, but we will hear now about these 4 classes of men and how to really come out of the influence of material nature and go to spiritual life. It's nice to hear about the modes, but that's the modes we have to get out of it. Yes.
Animals do not have earthly creation.
The being an animal is their karmic reaction. And going to the life of an animal, yeah. But they don't make new karma. They exhaust their karma and they come gladly to the human being. Also, those who go to heaven, they exhaust their karma and they come back to earth. But they exhaust their good karma. They mostly, from the animal species, they're bad karma mostly. because they became an animal. They exhaust their karmas and come back to the earth to renew their karma. But we should not renew. Don't renew your karma. Get rid of it. Krishna consciousness. Good. Thank you. Yes.
And Maharaj, how can a farmer or a businessman or a labor perform his activity in perfect Krishna consciousness?
That's one should think I've been put in this position by Krishna, Srila Prabhupada said, and Krishna wants me to do this duty. He engages me in this duty. So I'm doing it for his pleasure. That's the mode. Much more details, but that's the basis. Good. Then we meet at 11, Krishna willing, and continue with this 18th chapter.